Welcome to our weekly roundup of key economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. I'm Nishani Figuera, and here are this week's top stories. President visits UK and France to discuss debt. Sri Lanka confident of fulfilling IMF conditions by September. Over 5 million families still facing food insecurity. June tourist arrivals continue strong growth. In our main story this week, President Ranil Wickremesinghe will visit the United Kingdom and France next week to hold meetings with members of the Paris Club and discuss Sri Lanka's debt. In France, the president will address a high-level panel discussion at the Global Leaders Summit upon an invitation from the French President Emmanuel Macron. Meanwhile, according to State Finance Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya, Sri Lanka is on track to fulfill IMF conditions by September this year, adding that of the 62 conditions initially made, 25 have already been fulfilled. He also noted that a committee has been appointed by the central bank to oversee the progress. According to Vasanta Tukorala, senior professor at the Department of Economics and Statistics at the University of Peradeniya, a study conducted by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations indicates that 5.7 million families in Sri Lanka are currently facing food insecurity. An estimated 17% of the population is in moderate acute food insecurity, especially in the northern, eastern and central provinces. The island nation is ranked 79th in the world on food insecurity. However, the President's Secretariat strongly refuted allegations of widespread food insecurity in Sri Lanka, stating that the UN's Crop and Food Security Assessment Mission indicates an improvement in food security in the country. Capital controls were extended by a further 6 months, limiting the movement of foreign currency out of the country. According to Cabinet spokesman Bandulu Gunawardena, despite an increase in reserves from foreign worker remittances and tourist earnings, it is yet to reach a level to where such controls could be lifted. He added that the central bank had recommended extending the capital controls until the 31st of December this year. In our weekly tourism update, during the first 8 days of June, over 22,000 tourists arrived in the country, pushing the year-to-date visitor numbers to over 546,000. Daily arrivals in the month were 2,775. In June, India accounted for 28% of the arrivals, followed by Russia and the United Kingdom. Visitor numbers are likely to surpass Sri Lanka Tourism's monthly target of 87,500. Sri Lanka is likely to allow free visas for South Asian countries soon. Tourism Minister Harin Fernando, speaking to the Daily FT, stated that SAARC members will benefit from free visas, which aims to position Sri Lanka as being more welcoming and accessible. In 2022, tourists from the region were only 153,000, down from the historic high of 537,000 in 2018. Meanwhile, Australia's Sydney Morning Herald highlighted Sri Lanka as a must-visit travel destination for every tourist, specifically mentioning the country's natural beauty and adding that given its economic situation, it could do with a lot of love right now. Visitors from Australia to Sri Lanka have steadily improved this year. From October, Turkish Airlines is set to launch direct flights from Istanbul, Turkey to Sri Lanka. Resuming services after 10 years, this will connect Sri Lanka over 120 countries, allowing for shorter flight and connection times at the Istanbul airport. In other news, Sri Lanka Customs stated that it will fall short of its annual tax revenue target of 1.2 trillion rupees in 2023, mainly due to the restriction on vehicle imports. From January to May this year, the department has only recorded a revenue of 330 billion rupees and is expecting the full-year tax revenue to be approximately only 780 billion rupees. Vehicle imports account for about 20% of the customs tax revenue. The government is to go ahead with the sale of its stake in Sri Lanka Telecom. This is despite the Sectoral Oversight Committee opposing such a move due to the threat to the national security. However, the President's media division stated that the reports lack logical and scientific data analysis pertaining to such a threat. And now let's take a look at the weekly movement of the All Share Price Index and the S&P SL 20 Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange. At the Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on all maturities fell slightly. Bids amounting to 380 billion were received, of which 180 billion rupees were accepted. The Sri Lankan rupee depreciated against the dollar this week, with the central bank's indicative mid-spot rate ranging between 292 and 308. And with that, we wind up for this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at the link below for more updates on economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. Until we see you again next week, thank you for watching. Stay safe.